Today we have Ankit Mohanty, Director of Trupti Enterprises and Automobiles on our Journey podcast. Welcome, Ankit.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Now, your father built Trupti Enterprises from ground up. Just tell me, what is the most surprising thing that you discovered while working with Trupti Enterprises that you didn't while growing up in your initial childhood years?
So, I'll tell you my journey, how I started. I think 4 years back, I returned to Bhubaneswar. So, my initial years understanding the business, like if anyone would ask me, what does your dad do? So, I'd give a very brief explanation of what my dad did. So, like a funny story, a teacher asked me, what does your dad do? So I was so ignorant at that time that I was like, he's the owner of Tata Motors. So the teacher was obviously taken aback. And when I went back home and I told my mom that this thing happened, and I don't know, for some reason the teacher reacted in a weird way. So she's like, yeah, of course you shouldn't say that because we are just a dealer. So then after that I talked to my dad. I got to understand the dynamics of the business. So that was a very
If I might cut you here, how
Yeah.
old were you at that point in time?
So I was probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
Right, 5 or 6. So that was the the very beginning of our journey with Tata Motors. So we are a Tata Motors dealer.
Dealership, yes.
So we started off as a service center and then gradually scaled up to being a dealer and a full range dealer of commercial vehicles and passenger as we are today. So that journey was, it was very gradual, and obviously at that age I was not exposed to what exactly do we do. So that was a very small experience of how my upbringing was and how connected I was with the business. I moved back. Then my journey with my studies. I went abroad. I did my masters. I worked for a couple of years, and COVID second year is when I moved back here to support my dad in the business. It was initially the plan, and then I eventually ended up executing the plan. As you said, and coming back to your question, what was the most surprising thing is the sheer number of the sheer scale of operations that we have embarked on over the years. So my dad has built this empire, which is today from ground up. It's basically a 0 to 1
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So understanding the magnanimity and the scale of operations took me a lot of time to digest. We employ around 1,000 people in Odisha, in the 6 districts that we work in. Understanding how many people that we give livelihood to and how many people are dependent on the financial safety that we are providing was a big surprise for me. You know, I went in there to understand the business, but the nuances of the business. What is the impact of the business? Like, what is our impact in the society that we work in? Business is on paper, but the impact of it and the externalities that it results in, it's so massive and so widespread that you only understand it when you get when you get your skin into the game.
Right.
You try and understand, or you get a glimpse of it.
Correct.
So it was an awakening for me to understand, what is the responsibility that I have at that position to take this forward, and who am I responsible to? Am I just responsible to myself and my ambitions, or am I responsible to the society at large, or the community that I serve?
Okay.
So that, I think, was, if you can say, the biggest how do you call it, the biggest fact that
Reality check
the
that you
reality
kind of-
check,
yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Understood.
the reality check.
Was there ever a moment where you seriously contemplated not joining the family business? And if not, what parallel universe would Ankit be treading on right now? I want you to be dead honest on this.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I am 100% going to be honest with this answer. There is a phase in life where I feel like every second generation businessman like me comes across this particular question that we ask ourselves. We don't have to wait for someone to ask that question. And I'm pretty sure that anyone who's watching this, any second generation guy who's watching this, would have come across this. And especially me doing business in a tier 2 city, where I have been very fortunate enough to have a life where I was given enough freedom to pursue my goals,
Right.
to pursue my ambitions, and to pursue it anywhere. basically. So when I moved abroad, the life there is how do you call it? It's very calculated and it's very secure and it's very comfortable,
Hmm.
so to say. You get the big bucks, you have a good life there, and all your needs, all your wants are kind of taken care of by virtue of it being a first world country. You get a lot of provisions and you get a lot of facilities which normally you would not expect in India.
Hmm.
There are definitely some cultural differences and there are a lot of social differences as
Yeah.
well. So I have had that feeling quite a lot. Basically during the time that I was there outside, and to be very honest with you, I also sat down. The time when I was making my plan to head back home,
Hmm.
I sat down. I sat myself down. I was like, "Am I sure about doing this?" Because, yeah, I was in a good company. I was having a decent earning, and I was having a good time there. Having my own independent way of living, and so salary is like a drug,
Hmm.
right? So it keeps you engaged, and you are just so comfortable that you don't look beyond, because at the end of the day you get that paycheck and you know that starting of the week your rent is taken care of, your
I'll
food is
cut you
taken.
again.
Yeah.
With people like you born with a silver spoon, financial safety net is already taken care of.
Yeah, correct.
So salary, for that matter, wouldn't be factored in.
Right.
What drove you to join Trupti Motors and
Yeah,
not
so
pursue something else? I'm not only talking about a corporate job. Let's say
Mhm.
something else, a passion project or something of that sort.
Correct. So yeah, so I was going to get to that. So salary is a drug. I didn't say that it's a drug for me, but it's a drug. So
Right.
no matter how driven you are, everybody wants a kind of security.
Hmm.
Everybody likes to be comfortable at a
Correct.
certain point.
Right.
Okay, how much do I toil?
Hmm.
How much do I grind?
Hmm.
For what do I grind?
Hmm.
Now that is where that question, when I sat myself down, do I want to go back or do I not want to go back? That is where that question beckons.
So you had this conversation with
I
yourself.
had that conversation that
Okay.
this is a life of security, this is a life of comfort.
Hmm.
Now, if I go back,
Hmm.
although there is everything that's built for me,
Hmm.
the pressure is always going to be there, right? For a second generation, the pressure is always there.
Right.
So, what are you going to add?
Hmm.
Everyone is going to ask the same thing. Everyone is going to tell the same thing. I'll get to that in a bit. That the questions that I faced once I moved back.
Hmm.
Like, if you have that question for me, then I can answer very happily. But at that point, when I asked myself that, so that is when I weighed, ki, what is my drive? Like, where am I going with this thing?
Hmm.
Do I need do I need a life where I'm very comfortable and I'm very happy, or do I want to replicate something that my dad taught me to do?
Mhm.
So my dad was always like, you have to be remembered for something. You have to have some kind of a contribution where people know that this guy was there and this guy contributed in some way or not.
Hmm.
What we call a legacy building process,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
So at that point, I was like, am I going to be satisfied with this?
Hmm.
Am I built to be satisfied with this?
Hmm.
So I did have doubts.
Hmm.
I did have a lot of doubts at that time. But if I had to do a logical analysis at that time, I was very much comfortable with the idea of taking that challenge where I had to prove myself. For a second generation guy like me or a girl, for a second generation person stepping into the business,
Hmm.
you have to prove a lot of things.
Hmm.
It's very easy from the outside, from the lens of a third person, to say that okay,
You have everything on your
you
plate.
have a corner office.
Yeah.
You sit there and you just you work what your dad has
Hmm.
already built.
Hmm.
Now that is not comfortable for a lot of us.
Okay.
Some people maybe get tired of that question and
Hmm.
maybe like it's
You
always
hota
it's
rehta.
already going to be the same thing, so why bother?
Hmm.
But for me it was a little different because I would not I would not take it in a way that my my peers or anyone who's surrounding me would have any kind of a doubt about my my abilities. So I wanted to prove something, and I wanted to prove it at a place where people doubt me the most,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
And that is back home. That
Okay.
is back home when people know me, where
Mhm.
people know me. So outside, no one knew me.
Yeah.
They knew that everything that I do here is going to be seen in a way that, okay, this guy is building something here.
Okay.
Now, if you want to, if you want to go back, you will you will have the maximum number of doubts there,
Right.
where people already know you, where you're stepping into known shoes, familiar
Correct.
territory.
Correct. Correct.
So that is when I wanted to, I took it as a personal challenge. Okay, see, motivation works in very weird ways.
Hmm.
I read in a book that this is not the right kind of a motivation, but then this is something that I had in me. I couldn't ignore what I was feeling inside.
Hmm.
So at that point, when I asked myself that question, okay, do I want to take that challenge or not?
Hmm.
Am I confident enough to take that challenge? So then at that point, I felt like, okay, I have prepared myself to be in this position, to be able to get a job. By the way, I got a sales job in a place where I didn't know the language. So
Okay.
that already was a very tough ask, and I proved myself that, because I had a, it took me like 4 or 5 months to find a job outside, and it was a
Mhm.
very, it was a very tricky situation because I didn't know the Dutch language.
Mhm.
So for me, being in sales guy and not knowing the local language was a challenge.
Hmm.
So I proved that I could, just by my own, by my own credibility and my skills, I could get that.
Hmm.
So what was the next step?
Hmm.
So that is something that I decided, okay, let me have a go at that challenge.
Right.
I want to go back, and I want to be there surrounded by people who are questioning me, that what am I going to do here? What kind of an addition to this business that my dad has built? What is my addition going to be? So that is when I made up my mind, and I was like, let me move, let me move there, and let me try and establish an identity of my own.
Hmm.
Step out of the shadows of this legacy
Hmm.
that has already been in place.
Hmm.
Step out of the shadows of that,
Hmm.
and try to prove my worth.
Hmm.
You know.
Ankit, let's talk about old childhood conversations,
Mhm.
especially with dads.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that one conversation that you had with dad, which at that time you would have labeled as old fashioned, but now it has turned into a gold mine, a life lesson, a gold, valuable life lesson?
Which I would term as old-fashioned.
Yeah, maybe at that point in time when you were
Mhm.
young, you thought,
Mhm.
okay, ये तो चलता रहता है.
Mhm.
But later on in life, late 20s, approaching 30s, handling business, getting to know the nuances of business, you realize what he said was actually right. It's a gold mine.
Uh, okay. So to categorize into your, it's very specific bracket.
Yeah.
So to categorize into that would be tough, because. Mm,
No, you can give just
so
several instances.
I'll give you something which is similar,
Yeah.
which is something that down the line, when I thought about it, I could understand I could understand the
Psyche
underlying
behind his
message.
thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
psyche
yeah,
behind it.
yeah.
So it's a very it's a very funny thing that my dad told me, and later on when I think about it, I can understand the deep message, because dads are very peculiar in how they converse with you
Correct,
emotionally.
correct,
Like
correct.
moms have that emotional connect
Yeah,
with you, but your
yeah.
dad is so logical at times that
Right.
you understand that, okay, really, does he want to hurt me or what?
Right, right, right.
So, so this time I just graduated from college, and I was at home. I was preparing for GMAT to move to do my MBA
Abroad, yeah.
abroad. So at that time, I was taking my classes very easily, because I didn't have to go for a job. I had taken like a 6 month time to prepare, and at that time I was slowly also getting used to the business, because my father had asked me to also go to the office with him to understand how the business is, and just to get a glimpse of things before I head off to do an MBA and work and then come back. So this was kind of like a crash course, right? So at that time, I remember this one instance where I was just, I was preparing for my GMAT. I was giving some tests, and then so I'm just very chill, and I come back to his room, and I'm just talking to my sister. She was a kid back then,
Yeah.
so I was talking to my sister, and then my dad is like, so it's a working day. Why are you not ready for office? So like, just having a conversation with my sister. So it's like, say, you can have a conversation at off work hours. right? You can't reach. Why do you have to have a conversation right now? Where is your drive? What are you trying to do here? So I was very shocked. Like, it's fine. I'm just talking to her, right? So what is this? I don't understand the message here.
Okay.
So then he asked me, how old are you? I mean, he's pretty much aware of what my age is. So I said I'm 23. I'm 22. I was 22.
Because this is about 8 to 9 years back.
Yeah, this is about almost
Okay.
9 years.
Hmm.
9 years back. So I
You're
was
revealing your age cryptically. Okay.
yeah,
Yes. Huh.
yeah. I'm an old guy. So it was 9 years back. Yes. So at that time, so he looked at me. He was like, "How old are you?"
Hmm.
I said, "I'm 22." Why do you ask me? Like at 22, I was already earning.
Hmm.
Right. I was already doing a business when I was 22. What are you doing?
Hmm. You
Right.
felt rebellious at that point in time?
I know I didn't. I felt bad. I felt bad because I kind of I didn't understand what he meant at that time, but I could kind of get a hint that probably he's somehow questioning my choices there. Me wanting to prepare for MBA or not working at that time. I don't know. I don't know. It felt like it's a very orthodox approach to someone who's there at home. Why are they not engaged? It's a very masculine thing, right? Why are you at home on a Monday? You have to go and work, right? So at that particular point, I didn't know how to take it. I felt bad.
Yeah.
I felt bad. Why is he talking to me that way? But now if you ask me, so see, I still don't understand what the message was, right? But if I have to really think about this incident, and if I have to really get to terms with how he wanted me to interpret this incident, he probably had a message here saying that you are lucky to be in this position, to have an opportunity to take your time off and prepare for an MBA or for any. You have the time, you have the space, you have the opportunity or the luxury to take the time off and think about what you want to do,
Which your peers might or might not
which
have.
your peers might or might not have, which my dad certainly didn't have, or any of my family members didn't have.
Right.
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 So at that point, he wanted me to be aware, be mindful of what I have, and to use it in a way that is going to benefit me, rather than take it for granted. It's very easy to do that, right? It's very easy to have that opportunity and be like, yeah, okay, I can afford to do that. I can afford to have some time to think about what I want to do. But life is merciless, and time will not stop for anyone, no matter if you're born with a silver spoon or you're just a nobody and trying to make a name for yourself. Time is just going to pass, right? So at your youth and your time to learn will never come back.
Okay.
So that's what I didn't realize that at that time. Okay, I'm just going to be very honest with you, and
Yeah.
I was rebellious internally because I was scared of my dad, so I couldn't say anything on his face. I was like, what is the whole purpose of making me sad right
Understood.
now? I mean,
Understood.
I'm
But
still.
you realize it now, right?
But I realize it now because I understand. I understand how hard it is
To build a business from
to build a
scratch,
business, not just to build a business, to making, like, earning a living is a forte. A lot of people might do that, but might do that unsuccessfully. Doing that successfully is a big task.
Okay.
So,
Understood.
Yeah.
तुम अभी यंग हो या तुम ट्रुप्स एंटरप्राइजेस में what segments are you what verticals are you looking at, like there may variety of pain points like inventory management, optimizing sales cycles, what are you good at, what are you managing currently? I would assume adapting to consumer preferences. How good are you with that, understanding consumer preferences, the shift to EV vehicles?
Correct.
How do you gauge all of that?
So I would see, gauging customer preferences is something which comes secondary for us, because we as a dealer, very much secure in the way that we have a parent company who's doing that for us.
Okay.
Right.
Hmm.
So let's say if I had my own company,
Hmm.
to understand what is the right time to launch an EV would be understanding customer preferences.
Hmm.
I don't have to do that.
Hmm.
I have my parent company or my principal company, which is Tata Motors, doing that.
Hmm.
So I'm very fortunate that way to understand. Yeah, we give nuances, we give feedback on the nuances of the local market,
Right.
but I wouldn't say that that is the most important thing.
Hmm.
That's for a dealership. That's not the most important thing. For the dealership, what is very important is stakeholder management.
Stakeholder.
And by stakeholder, I mean there are so many facets to
Correct,
our business,
correct.
and the biggest challenge that we have is manpower challenge, to understand what is the expectation of the people that are working there, right? The market will function in a way that we are already aware of. We can't change how the market is, right? The thing that we can change is how we are adapting to the market, right? Because Tata Motors is understanding where the market is going, and Tata Motors is building the products according to that. Right. So we don't have to interfere, or we don't have to really sweat over, okay,
With the
do I
core
do this?
strategy, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do I have to pitch a diesel or an EV here? So Tata Motors is understanding the preferences, and
Right.
Tata Motors is doing that in full-fledged way, and with a lot of resources that I can ever accrue to do. Right, that high level of execution is already happening. For me, the biggest challenge, it's a very personal opinion, okay, is the biggest challenge which I faced in the beginning was with stakeholder management, with understanding what the expectations of the company are, what the expectations of my people are from me, right? And an example of that would be how our background is as the company as Trupti. In the market, we started off as being a service dealer, right, as a service provider. We started in 1987 as the first authorized service center for Tata Motors. So before that, Tata Motors used to operate in a company-owned, company-operated model. So we were the first authorized service center wherein Tata Motors had appointed a third party to take care of the service. So we started off as that. So our fundamental is in how good we provide the service to our customers.
Right.
Because the differentiation right now, I can sell a Tata truck, and let's say you have an opportunity to also sell a Tata truck. What is going to be the differentiation between you and I? We don't control the product, right? You make the same product, you sell the same product, I sell the same product.
Since we have a same parent company, the prices are already set.
Prices
so what
are
do we
the
compete
same,
on?
the product is the same, the performance is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Where is the catch?
It's
The catch
customer
is in
service.
how well do you capture the customer. So
Yes.
I have been raised to understand the value of treating our customers
That
right.
was going to be my next question. Do you sit in a cubicle, or
So-
do you actually interact with customers?
No, I interact with customers.
Okay.
So, see, we have a CV arm and we have a PV arm. So, CV being commercial vehicle and PV being passenger vehicle.
Yeah.
In commercial vehicle, it's very hands-on.
Right.
Right. And I am completely involved in the commercial vehicle because that is where relationships and customer
Are built.
customer experiences are built, because you have a lot of big customers who will get swayed because of price, because of whatnot. Like if you are coming here with, if you want to buy like 50 trucks, right? So you would just, if you're a businessman, you'd be looking at numbers. So what is going to distract you from numbers? It's just your relationship, your experience with who you are, because who you are dealing with. Because if you're buying a vehicle, it's a commitment for at least 5 to 6 years. Now once the sale is done, for the next 5 to 6 years, you're only going to be relying on the person who sold you that to give you the right service, right? To make it operational, because you're going to earn your bread by applying that vehicle in any kind of trade that you are in, right? So building that service trust is something that that's something that
Sacrosanct.
that is sacrosanct, and there's something that was imbibed in me from the get-go. When I entered into the business, my first task for the first 1 year was just to be looking into service. my dad was like, this is the area where you need to focus on, this is where you need to build your core competence, you need to understand the dynamics of expectations, you need to understand the dynamics of stakeholder management here, because service is a part where everyone comes, to one point. The customer is at their vulnerable best, if you can say, because service is a burden for them, right? They don't want to spend the money. They want their vehicles to
They
be.
want a bang for the buck.
Yeah,
Basically.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. They want it to be functional.
Yeah.
They don't want any. They want limited breakdowns, whatever it is, and you need to also be engaging with your employees to be that well versed with understanding or empathizing with the customers.
Okay.
Right? You can't be going there as a 9 to 5 job that, like, ठीक है, this guy is coming to me, yeah, okay, fine, everything is fine, I'll take care of your basic requirements, and then you go your way, I go my way, and then if this issue is resolved or not, I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
This is just an example. There are so many dynamics to that, but to be understanding that this customer's expectations are, much more urgent, than what you perceive it to be, is is the name of the game here.
Right.
So the stakeholder management bit is very, very crucial,
Right.
which I got exposed to through my expedition and service in the initial years.
Any particular anecdote, heartwarming anecdote that you remember or recall of fondly with a customer who has been indirectly or directly associated with Trupti Enterprises?
Yeah, so there are so many. There
Okay.
are so many to be gathering right now, but I'll tell you something that I got exposed to, or that I interacted with this customer very recently.
Yeah,
In fact, like 2 days back.
Yeah.
So it's in commercial vehicles.
Yeah.
So we have our head office in Mangoli, Cuttack. So I'm seated there, and that's where I operate from. So this customer walks in, and so he just gives his introduction. So where he is from and how he is associated with us. So this guy walks in and he's like, भाई ମୁଁ ତମର ଗୋଟେ କଷ୍ଟମର, ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ତୃପ୍ତି ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଇଥିଲା 2005 ରେ, ସେଇ ଟାଇମରେ ମୁଁ ତମଠୁ, I was the first customer who got the truck from you.
How old was he?
This guy is probably in his early 50s.
Okay.
Early 50s. So I'm assuming that at that time he was just starting his business
off.
journey,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He
yeah.
must be in his mid 30s,
Right.
probably 35 or
Right,
something.
right.
So, he told me his experience that at that point they knew Tata, right? They knew that Tata is this global name and this company which operates in India, and they were like, okay, this is another dealer, and they are just facilitating me with the sale. They are giving me this Tata vehicle that I'll just buy from them. I will remember Tata. I will not know who Trupti is. Like,
That was their perception.
that was their perception
Okay.
then, at that time.
Yeah.
So then this guy told me this story that I just touched upon, this commitment to get this vehicle, and commitment to run this vehicle for a solid amount of, let's say, 6-7 years to earn your bread and butter through that. So this guy told me that I purchased the vehicle, but after that, every time I came back here, I used to always see people who are very happy and warming to welcome me here.
Okay.
They would treat me as if I am one of them. I am one of I'm a family member, that I have
Right.
been contributing to their growth.
Okay.
Right.
Huh.
So that is the pleasure that service will give you.
Huh.
Right. So 20 years later, we started our journey in 2005 as a dealer. This guy was the first customer, and now we are sitting in 2025. 2 days back, the story. 20 years later, this guy doesn't remember Tata. Of course, he knows Tata, but this guy would always come here. This guy, at that time, he came to me and he said, "Bhai, gaadi ne bhi jodi Trupti ru ne bhi." Right. So at that point, it was Tata, and now all he remembers is Trupti. Bhai, anything that I want, okay, Tata will not come and tell me that this vehicle has an issue, and they're not going to resolve it. You are going to resolve it.
Yeah.
You are the ones who are going to resolve it. I will purchase this vehicle, and for the next 10 years, I will be interacting with you guys. So how you are is the most important thing, not the other person next door who's also selling Tata.
Understood.
So I have a relationship with you,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You are Tata for me.
Hmm.
So Trupti Tata became the name,
Hmm.
over time. So that experience, when I was sitting there, I was like, it is so important to understand, how customers are, to get that real connect with them. It is so important to get that, because eventually this is what is going to define you in the market, who you are or what you're striving for, is what people think of,
Ah.
right? When people say that, I don't care how people think you are basically what people think you are,
Hmm.
right? You can be a very nice person, but if you're not executing or showcasing that, then fine, in closed doors you can be whatever you want, but then it is not going to translate into how people
Correct.
view you,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Correct.
So that's when, that is how, public perception and you trying
Right.
to,
Right.
engage or make a name for yourself in the
It
market.
develops, it evolves, yes.
Yeah, it evolves. Yeah,
Let's talk
exactly.
about some financial metrics now. Give us a sneak peek into the dealership business right now. I mean, how does the numbers look like for Trupti Enterprises annually?
So for Trupti Group, we clock around 1,000 CR turnover.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is combining everything as a group.
Yes.
So we have Tata Motors, we have Honda as well.
That is 6 districts combined, right?
Yeah,
Aggregate.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. So 6 districts for our commercial vehicle operations. For passenger vehicle operations, we mostly operate in Bhubaneswar, and we have a few locations additional. They call it emerging markets. So we are at
What are the emerging markets?
Emerging markets could be Nayagarh is
Okay.
one of the districts. Jagat Singhpur, Paradeep, we have a location there, and we are also starting in Cuttack. So we have another location there.
Okay.
So all in all, I think our majority of our business is through commercial vehicle and passenger vehicle. We have we have started scaling up now in the last 4-5 years. So I would say, yeah, so close to 1,000 CR is what we
Clock right now?
What we clock right
All
now.
right.
Yes, correct.
Now, you must be hanging out with a lot of, let's say, second generation or third generation Bhubaneswar entrepreneur hairs right now. What's that one or multiple inside jokes that you have amongst yourself that people outside the business circle wouldn't get or wouldn't, get the catch of the hook of?
Some inside jokes.
Yeah?
Uh, I mean, see, we try to have very insightful talks, obviously. Like it's between you and I, it's very insightful.
Yeah.
And some jokes, see, it's the very common joke is, हाँ ठीक है, पापा तो कर देंगे. So it's a very common thing wherein we struggle to somehow communicate our struggles. Is when some of us, one person to the other, heart to heart conversation where you're like, hey, this is something that's causing me some trouble in paradise, is what they will view it as, but it's trouble for you.
Yeah.
But for them it's like trouble in paradise,
Right.
right? So it'll be like, अरे ठीक है बापू देख लेगा ना. So that's
That's the
yeah,
okay.
that's basically how it works. But yeah, see, I've been very fortunate to come back to Bhubaneswar and to be meeting a lot of like-minded people who
Share your vision and ambitions. Yeah?
yeah, in all honesty, they are kind of always aspiring to be, to carve a niche for them or to make an identity for themselves. And I'm very fortunate to be knowing a lot of people, in that mold, who are driven, equally driven, and who I feel like, being surrounded by such kind of a group, having a pure base as such, definitely pushes you every single day to be, achieve, like, pursuing new goals, new dreams, and like not taking it for granted what we have, but using it as a base to catapult yourself to the next level. So that's very important, and I've been very fortunate.
Okay, okay,
So
understood.
all jokes aside, we have that little
Safety net, yeah.
yeah, we have that little thing, the base, and we joke about it as well at times, like you rightly asked, and like I rightly pointed out also. But then all things aside, this camaraderie results in us trying to pursue our own
Higher
ambitions,
ambitions, yes.
and our own goals.
Understood.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Now, big firms, MNCs have dedicated PR arms, reputation management arms. Now, sometimes these local entrepreneurs who built a legacy over decades, they might be great in all other aspects of business, but sometimes lack in the PR and reputation management skills. And in
Right.
an age
Right.
where a common man can go around and speak anything about you, call the media, speak things that are unfounded, biased, not true. What do you feel about that? How do you combat that?
Basically, see, it's back in the day. I'll take you back 30 years. 30 years back, building a brand was very tough. How do you get people to know who you are? It was print media mostly, and if you knew like a lot of influential people, that was one of the ways.
Right.
Word of the mouth was the talk of the town, and print media, if you were fortunate and you had deep pockets, that's something that you could eventually embark upon to make a name for yourself. What was equally tough was also equally comforting, because any kind of bad publicity would not be running havoc, right? Because it was also restricted. How do you spread that word? Now it's very challenging. Now it's like we have a platform for everything. We have a platform for good, and we have a platform for bad. Everything, and they just go hand in hand. So starting from that position, building a brand at that point 30 years back,
Right.
without a presence of any kind of platform, where it was so much easier to propagate your ideas or reach people's households through their phones or through their TVs or whatever. So that that effort that it took was so immense that you just had to rely on good deed after good deed after good deed, word of the mouth, people talking good things about you, knowing the right kind of people. And it was just a relentless chase for perfection.
Right.
Right. I'm not saying it's not now, but at that time there was no other choice. You just had to have, that kind of a presence in the market where everybody understands what you are doing.
Right.
Everybody knows that you are building something for a purpose. Right. So I cannot imagine being in that position and trying to build a brand. I'm very fortunate to be walking into a company or a brand which has
Persevered
yeah,
throughout the
persevered
years.
throughout the years, just unrelenting, just day after day, week after week, year after year, just being there, doing the same thing, doing the same fundamental things consistently, just keeping at it again and again and again, right? So that struggle to be at the position that I'm in right now, where in the market you've been a trusted automobile brand for 30, 35 years, it's a lot of blood, sweat and tears, right? A lot of that. A lot of that. I have seen that firsthand. I've realized that firsthand. When I walk into the office, I realize, I understand. When people, like I gave you an example before.
Right. Right.
This guy talks about 20 years back what happened.
Right.
He still remembers what happened 20 years back.
Yeah.
Imagine if at any point in that 20 years you had
A minor
somehow
hiccup, yeah, with the
minor
company.
hiccup with him or with anyone else, you would have just, at least you would have lost this one guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You would have at least lost this one guy. Now the challenge is this one guy. This one guy carries so much polarizing power that you have to be so sure about how you are functioning. Every mistake, they say to err is human, right? So if you make a mistake, it's only human to make a mistake, right? But at this day and age, your mistakes will be magnified at a scale that you can never imagine.
Right.
If you were like, maybe if you're living in a time 30 years back, mistakes were like, okay, fine, it's a mistake, right? A few people understood about it, and then you did your course correction according to that. So at this point, every single misstep runs the risk of absolutely, eroding all kind of trust that you have built for the last 30 years, right? That's a long time to be in the market and to stay relevant. And every bad piece of information can absolutely ruin you. It's happened to so many people that we know.
Right, right.
As you're talking, it's some wrong tweet 10 years back that you get caught in the storm, and then it just completely washes off whatever you have done
Yes.
for the next 20
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
10 years, whatever it
So
is.
that's the entire thing of what I'm focusing on. It.
Yeah.
It might come your way anyway.
Exactly. It will just happen.
Yeah.
So what do you do? How do you contain yourself? Now, mistakes are going to happen. I am not God. My staff, my employees, the people that are somehow associated with myself, they are not isolated from any kind of human error. It's going to happen. Human error exists. We take that into our consideration when we are developing analytical models. We take some margin of error. Why do we do that? Because margin of error is a very normal
Yeah,
thing.
it's a basic
Right.
fundamental
It's a
thing.
very
Human thing.
basic. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very fundamental thing.
Yeah.
But we live at a time where I feel like, people who have the power to influence have a lot of responsibilities. We are sitting here on this platform. You, with that mic on, you have the power to influence a lot of people, right? So I feel like somehow, somewhere down the line, you feel like you should have the responsibility to educate people rather than distract people, right? And in the same way, people who are consuming this piece of information should have the scientific temper. Scientific temper is a constitutional phrase,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
constitution promotes us to understand, or to imbibe that
Believe
scientific.
or disbelieve
Exactly.
something.
Yeah, not at face value, but in a
Or
scientific way.
Rationally.
Rationally, in a very scientific
Yeah.
way. So responsibility is bi-directional. So see, I can't stop any kind of bad media that is
Right,
thrown at
right,
my
right,
face,
right,
right? What I can do, all I can do here is I can expect people in that position who can influence to understand the power that they have and to wield it carefully, right?
Understood.
Any kind of a bad publication or bad media, if unresearched or unfounded, can just completely destroy something which has taken so much of hard work,
Valid point.
so much
To
hard
wrap up this podcast, what would be your message to our viewers who disbelieve Trupti Motors, Trupti Enterprises' legacy of over 30 years, credibility?
See, it's again the same thing that I talked about this
I mean, at a
influential bits.
fundamental level, it's personal choice and preference.
Of course it is. Of course
But
it
then,
is.
what is the fundamental
See,
sacrosanct principles that you live by?
yeah,
Trupti Motors?
it's you have to understand that it's very easy for anyone with a camera is a journalist today. Okay, I can't stop anyone on any platform expressing anything that they want to do. It's freedom of speech,
Yeah.
freedom of expression.
Yeah.
They ought to do whatever they ought to do, right? But the constitution has rules, and so I just want to not educate, but I just want to inform the people that are consuming media in any form, be it print, be it digital, whichever way it is.
Don't believe it on face value. Yeah.
Understand the source, understand where it's coming from,
Yeah.
and take everything with a pinch of salt, right? People will try to influence you, but everyone is a grown up. So you understand where it's coming from, you understand the source of it, and do you actually reason with any of the things that are being shown? Like you on a personal level, do you actually reason with any of this? right? As a person, maine, it's a question. It's not a question, but it's kind of an attack on your own thoughts or on your own beliefs. If something is trying to influence you, you take it very strongly. This anything that's trying to influence you, you take it very strongly. Right? You are thinking a certain way, and something is trying to change that thought. So you take it very strongly. Don't get influenced, because a lot of people are getting influenced because, oh, I mean, the human psyche works in a way that you get very attached or very attracted to any kind of negative information that's shown at you. It's proven, right? It's psychologically proven, but it's very easy to be getting entangled in that stuff. So you take a very judicious call at that time. You understand, you try to weigh your you try to weigh the different POVs that are getting thrown at you, and you take a call for yourself. And simultaneously, anyone who has the power to have that influence of people, I at this at this point, we have already understood the power of digital media, right? Digital marketing is a big buzzword now. Why is it? Because everyone has understood the power. So anyone who's promoting that platform also, they have that innate responsibility, because you are speaking for, you're not just speaking for yourself. You are basically the voice of any kind of citizen or any kind of a stakeholder in this environment. You are the voice of that. You have been given that platform. You have to be very fortunate, and at the same time you have to be very responsible in how you are promoting that piece of information or that piece of fact or whatever you're publishing.
Understood.
So that's I think, I don't know. See, my answers are very,
Yes,
it can't be
understood.
perfect, but it's just how I have been feeling.
Fair point, Ankit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Oh,
being on the
my
Journey
pleasure, my
podcast
pleasure,
today. It was
my
a pleasure
pleasure.
having you.
Same here. Thank you so much.